Good evening, good late evening. Hey guys, Truth and Transparency, episode 2 of the 3 parts. So this is part 2. Again, hello to all the members, mod bods, new people out there. Good evening. Gonna give everybody a chance to get in here. Again, welcome. Part 2, the Untold truth. So, hope you guys are doing good. Sorry, I had no power yesterday. Couldn't go live. Hello. Glad you're back in working order. Yes, I am definitely back in working order. Again, giving a minute here for people to get in. Again, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. You can become a member. I think one of my mod bods will drop the link if you want to become a member to see behind the scenes stuff, special feeds, special footage, all that good stuff. Becoming a member, everything goes to Fight for a Family. So, good evening. Thank you, Bumblebee. Appreciate that. Again, the live didn't happen last night, so it is taking place tonight, which is the part 2, so nobody missed anything. And I do apologize. Again, all I'm doing is just stalling here a couple extra minutes. Recapping where we're gonna pick up today is, everything surrounds that car incident. So that is going to be main focus, and then as well as the report. And some other special mentions. Hello there, Miss Chelsea. Yes, welcome. You can see it in the live, actually live. So, Canadian Mama. Hello. Yeah, look at all the cool kids in green. Funny. All right, let's go ahead and get started again. This will start popping up a little bit later of a start time tonight. All right. So going back to this report in the car incident. For people that don't know, Rachael had family that lived on Hospital Drive. Grandma and uncle in the same place. I noticed that when I was doing my research, and so when you want to talk about that hospital and why meeting there and all that stuff, you cannot overlook the fact that Rachael would have been really close to where her, family is residing right there. So Now, the report was never written until April, end of April, beginning of May, when it was printed off, of 2017. The incident was 2016. And then again, your leak comes literally after Frankie goes to the police station, where he was directed to by his friend and soon-to-be Councilman Matt Motz. Those of you guys that don't know Matt, 48 Hours, they show Jen and Matt were dating, then they get married, friends with Rachael and Frankie. There's a fallout, and Rachael and Jen, are no longer talking due to the fact that Jen at the MPI club wanted Rachael to tell Frankie that she had a drug problem. And that started a huge, blow up. It is only out of Jen's mouth that we hear on 48 Hours that she claims when she approached Rachael and said, whatever, and then she was slapped, whatever. She then said, Frankie, you need to ask her about the night in the car. Now, the secret, though, wasn't that. The secret was about drugs, and that they were claiming that Rachael was on drugs. So the only person that we heard this incident and how this happened is actually out of Jen's mouth. So fast forward to then May, Fran writes this report, right? Well, how about the day after the incident where Rachael was with somebody and they call up Ken Watkins and meet with him to ask him if a report was written and what's going on, and I just don't want Frankie to know about this, and he's gonna, you guys don't understand, that's not how it was, and yada yada yada. I don't want any problems. And she's scared of Frankie, I don't want him, all this stuff. Well, Ken Watkins assures Rachael that there was no report written, and it's over, nothing there. So why was this report ever written? And walks in 48 Hours is Joe Percival. And on 48 Hours claims that, yeah, he told Fran to do the report. Well, that would be the incident report. Now, how did Joe come to even find out about this? if there is no incident, no one's talking about it, the assistant police chief didn't even know about it, he was told about this in passing from Fran and Watkins just a couple days prior to everything to do with when it was typed up in May, like a month or two beforehand. So Fran gets this report done, the incident report, and says here's the report, but it was sealed in an envelope and given to Joe. Joe then had it in his office. Now, a phone call was made. Matt Motz wants Frankie to be able to come and get this incident report. Is it, hey, there should be an incident report. Is there an incident report? Can Frankie come and get it? Well, Frankie goes. When he does this and arrives at the station, why did Frankie go to Joe to get this report? Why wouldn't Frankie go to Fran, who wrote the report, to get the report and to ask him about the incident? Why would you go to somebody that wasn't involved with the incident? Why did Joe have this report? And if a report is being asked to be done, an incident report, why then are all these other pieces of paper supposedly in this, with this report? And the answer to that is that nobody actually knows what was actually in that envelope because it was sealed. Now, I think we can all admit that Frankie wouldn't be where he is in life right now if he was not a smart, cautious person. So Frankie claimed that Rachel was trying to get back with him, according to 48 Hours. And, he didn't want to think that Rachel was playing him or something like that. And that's why he wanted this report, to know about what actually happened, because he's questioning this incident that took place in 2016. And now it's October 2017. February, over a year and a half. Now, John Paul needs a story. And Matt Mott says, oh, there's this incident that happened. John Paul does a right to know request, PA, and comes back and says, there was no incident. There's got to be one. What are you talking about? Well, something that used to be featured on the Beaver Countian, which is no longer there. If you are a member of the website, you used to be able to see the 911 logs, like dispatch and then things of that nature. And it would be of, that day or previous days. You can go on there and you could pull that right up. And that would be the only thing that would be before this incident report was ever written would be the proof or that something had taken place based on Fran calling in the suspicious vehicle, running the plates. So running the plates, finding out it's registered to Rachael DelTondo, who he claims he doesn't know who she is, but works at the MPI club for Frankie, doing special events such as the San Rocco, such as other things, and claims in his report that he does not know who Rachael is, doesn't write this up. Ken Watkins was there that night. Rachael talked to him the next day about it. Okay, nope. There was no reports being written, but she was also trying to state, hey, it's not what you think, but also understanding what it could look like. Great. Now, let's talk about the facts of the incident report. What ended up happening because of this quote unquote leak? Who benefited? What was the result of this? The result of it was that Rachael was not fired but put on leave, paid leave, pending this investigation. Rachael then becomes according to John Paul, in his December 8th, 2017 article, that Rachael started to basically be somebody that would give him information, a confidential source. And these are facts from this incident report getting leaked. Couch doesn't have his position. Joe Percival's arrested. And Matt Motz is now on the council. An investigation is launched into the police department. Now, we're gonna back up. Why Frankie just wanted to embarrass Rachael? Why wouldn't he just leak the incident report? Why would he ever put out the socials and all that stuff that was put out? Because doing so you can get an incident report if you fill out the paperwork to get something like that. But why even mess with the other stuff that is going to reflect directly on the police department that supposedly is, according to streets, protecting you? Well, there's one person that wasn't protecting in the police department, that wasn't protecting people in any type of wrongdoings or illegal stuff or whatever the case may be. And that person was Joe Percival. How did Couch come to be let go, or again, put on paid leave while pending this investigation? It's from the leak about the Social Securities, and that was when Matt Motz goes at a board meeting and does this all within, I think it was 3 weeks after Rachel's death. You're in the middle of a murder, national news, international news of Rachel's death, and Matt Motz is over here. We're going to basically, Couch is out. Because of what? Not because of the investigation into Rachel's murder. It has to do with this leak that happened in October. And now it's May, 3 weeks into June 2018, and running an investigation into one of the biggest, murder investigations that's going on in that town, that county, ever. And Matt's, hey, we're going to get rid of Couch. Why? Why right then? Because John Paul needed a story. Because after all, why did this happen in the first place? In order to get Rachael to cooperate with anybody, whether it be John Paul and his website, or it would be any of the police departments, you needed that leak to happen. Otherwise, everybody would think like that nothing was, Rachael would never have teamed up with anybody if that leak doesn't happen, right? People think that. Wrong. Rachael was already speaking before that leak happened, and said, so it was known that Rachael was going to be talking to a grand jury. Prior to this leak. Now, everybody basically was going to get what they wanted, which John Paul wanted stories. John Paul wanted people out of power positions. Frankie wanted to embarrass his, ex-fiance. Matt wants to seem important and not on the bad side of John Paul. So, because again, how does anybody know about this incident? Nobody knows about this incident. Except for who? Jen, in her own words, said that on 48 hours that she knew about it. Who's Jen? Jen's Matt's girlfriend. Matt called to see if Frankie could come pick up a report. Once that was passed off, now you can go ahead and move with Operation Leak, because now you can go after the police department for leaking sensitive information that was never supposed to get out. But who says that that's how they got that sensitive information? who printed off the sensitive stuff? Whose name is attached to running, going into a database and printing that off in April and May? Whose name is attached to it? Fran. Who found Rachel in a car? Fran. Who also found Rachel in a car? Watkins. Who talked to Rachel the next day and said there is no incident report ever like being written and all this stuff? Watkins. Who put a target on Rachel's back? Who's writing all these articles? Who's making it seem like Rachel's talking, maybe she's not? Again, why would Frankie out himself and then do something so stupid as to go to the police department the same day that he's handed this, a couple days later release this out there? Why not just the incident report? Why the other stuff? Knowing that the other stuff is going to come back on the police that are protecting him. Why would Frankie ever do that? And the answer is Frankie didn't do that. But he showed it. Hey, have you, do you know anything about this or anything about this? Yeah, the incident report. Who knew that Frankie was received something that day from the police department? Frankie and Matt. Who would then put in Operation Leak? Why would Frankie put in Operation Leak and screw his shit up? He wouldn't. Or would he? Why would Matt tell somebody to go forward with Operation Leak now that Frankie's been handed something? Now we can act like this is how. And then better yet, why was this never talked about once this leak thing happened? How'd they investigate this? What happened from it? What happened in October from it? What happened in November from it, or December, January, February, March, April, May, June, like in 2018? Oh wait, no wait. Rachael is murdered. And then we're going to, 3 weeks after it, we're going to Get Rid of Couch, directed by Matt Motz. And then Joe Percival's on his way to hand over the Rachael DelTondo case as well as other cases, to the state police, and he's arrested before he can do it that day. Wow. Just all this impeccable timing. It's because you have somebody playing both sides, whether it's 2 sides, whether it's 10 sides. You think that you're getting something and that someone's doing something for you, because that's what they make it seem like. But there's more to it. Somebody wanted Frankie to get that incident report so that they could go ahead with Operation Leak, which was to take down corruption. And who's always behind the corruption of taking it down? Where's Fran at? What's Fran? I mean, was he put on leave? Like, it's his incident report that was out there. Whose incident report is it? Who put that all together? I don't recall reading anything about Fran being put on leave. Oh wait, and then after the Rachael DelTondo murder, Watkins is put on leave. But their claim is that Watkins was tampering with the scene. That was all the hush-hush works, but in retrospect it was because of Lauren and the closeness with the family that he was, wouldn't he just be taken off the case? Well, you know, then he's put on leave. So who's there to work this murder? Why wouldn't Fran say, hey, I did that report that you asked for, you know? Like, why print it out, hand it? Why all that? Did somebody need it right then? And the answer is no. Why did John Paul wait? This came out the 26th, the 27th of October. Why did John Paul wait until December 8th to talk about this? Who did this leak benefit? I mean, it caused a big shitstorm for a lot of people, except for who? You guys know what the word collateral damage is? People became collateral damage. I think people in Ellicott have always been collateral damage. But in this situation, there was one person that was making it publicly known to the mayor, to the chief, and about things that were going on, and that they were actively working things and making it known, and that was Joe Percival. So my question is Joe's over here trying to, and turning stuff over and doing all of this stuff, then why would Joe engage in something like this and be, and leak this and almost like get himself fired? What? And the answer is you wouldn't do that. And he didn't do that. Setups. Who called Joe that day asking about an incident report? Matt Motz. Can Frankie come and get a report? Well, why isn't Frankie calling himself if he wants a report? I mean, why wouldn't Frankie's secretary call? Why wouldn't Frankie's, whoever? But why would Matt call for Frankie? I didn't realize that. I mean, if I want something, just, okay, go down there. You're all tight with the police department. They love him. He loves them. Why does Matt need to call and ask about this and set this all up and put this all in motion? Why? Because Matt was answering to somebody. Who's Matt answering to? Was Jen mad that Rachel stood up to her? A big old fight that broke out. They're not talking, all this stuff. I mean, that's if, in fact, Jen knew. That's if, in fact, that fight at the MPI club was actually over the supposed secret. And I question if Jen knew. But for the 48 hours, we need to, it goes really good with the storyline, because then how would anybody know, like Matt Motz, how would he know about, like, Rachel's not here to say, I never talked to them about this. I never did that. She's not here to say if that happened or not. That's their story. But who was in 48 hours again? John Paul, Matt Motz, Jen, Frankie, Lisa, Joe, Lauren. That 48 hours story is a narrative that who's trying to sell? And that would be the Beaver Countyans, John Paul. Who's one of his confidential sources? I don't think it's Frankie. Hey Jen, you're gonna act like Rachel told you this, and that's gonna be how this got out. Because we're not gonna say that Fran told us, or Couch told us, or Ken Watkins told us. So how do we, get around that? Loose lips sink ships. people that were higher up wanted Joe out. They were looking at ways to try to do it. And so what did they do? They set him up. They set him up. That's your collateral damage with everything that's going on. Because I don't think that John Paul wanted Joe out. But if Matt and Frankie felt like they couldn't control Joe, then they would want him out. If people that are even higher up can't control Joe, or that Joe's not going to be down with stuff or whatever, you know, or, well, we can try and see like how it goes with Joe as chief, you know, yada, yada, yada. I mean, on 48 Hours, John Paul said that Rachael told him that people were following her, she's getting death threats, you know, all these things, and that she's in fear of her life. So I have a question. What did you do to help her? What did you do to help Rachael? Did you look into it? If you're an investigative journalist, did you, you know, hey, maybe you should get cameras at your house. Hey, maybe this, maybe, I mean, if somebody came to me and told me those things, and this is somebody that's a now confidential source according to him. We don't know if that's true. What did you do to help Rachael? I mean, John Paul has a lot of pull, doesn't he? I know his husband is a wonderful police officer, hell of a police officer. Not obviously in Alquipa. So this leak all happens, which again, no wrongdoing. Like, Rachael didn't lose her job. Rachael was never fired before she was, you know, murdered. She was never fired. And what are you doing to help Rachael? Rachael's helping you, supposedly. What are you doing to help Rachael? Again, these are your words, not mine. And anybody that's going to say that Rachael was lying, that Rachael would make stuff up, that's not really happening. Well, Rachael was murdered. 10, 12 bullets. Rachael wasn't lying. If anybody would have looked into it, was Rachael constantly calling the police department prior to that ever saying anything like, you know, this, that, or the other going on, and that she was, oh, here comes Rachael again. No, did she ever go to the police and talk about Sheldon Jeter Jr. bothering her? No. How does one go to the police and tell on the police to the police? What if information's getting out to places like the media, like that website, the Beaver County, and I mean, who is someone like Matt Mott's blaming? Oh, I wonder who's talking. I wonder who told him that. I wonder this, that, the other. Like, I mean, don't you think somebody that pays attention to a lot of things like Frankie pays attention, he's not gonna wonder who's talking, who's doing this and who's doing that? Do you think ever Rachael was mentioned and blamed for something to take the heat off of, you know, himself? Matt in the 48 Hours episode said that Rachael, you know, went from being this lovable, kind, sweet, yada yada, to becoming somebody that always had something to hide and, you know, like lie. Well, I wonder why, Matt. Why would she tell you anything? She probably had to hide things from you because who are you running to and blabbing? Or better yet, how would you know how Rachel's being if you and Jen are no longer hanging out with Rachael and Frankie due to that blow up? I don't know how you would know how Rachael is being. I mean, are you following her? Or how would you know what Rachael is hiding if Rachel's not talking to anybody? Or, I mean, if you're not around her, she's not hanging out with you or Jen anymore. You know, a lot of things from 48 Hours, that episode, is, I mean, hey, Rachael confided in me. Well, is there any way that we can prove that? Do you have a text message, Jen, that shows that? Do you have, you know, like when actually was that conversation? Because you guys hadn't been talking. So I'm just curious as to when this conversation, and why would Rachael talk about something that she does not want to possibly get back to Frankie? Why would she tell Jen, who again is dating Matt and Frankie are friends? I mean, if I'm deathly afraid of Frankie ever finding out about that, why would I ever be talking about it? You know, I'm curious if, you know, did Frankie, Matt, Jen, John Paul, Lauren, did any of these people pay any respect to the DelTondo family and reach out when Rachael was murdered, after Rachael was murdered? Did they, you know, I know that it was a more private ceremony or service. But did anybody call? Did anybody text? Anybody call or text her parents? Her brother? Is anybody actively out there asking the questions of, you know, people are pissed about this series I'm doing. Why? Don't you want to find out what happened to Rachael and who did it and why? Everybody's just all about themselves, saying, oh, let me know what she says about me, or let me know what she does this. Well, what? It's not about anybody else other than Rachael, Sheldon. Oh, but it is. It's about who has more power. I mean, I wonder if Frankie knows that he was used by Matt and had him go up there for a different purpose than the one that was told to him. I wonder if he knows that. I'm gonna look at your guys' questions now if you have them, because I haven't been looking at chat love. But before I go and do that, we're gonna talk about that night, which is the night that Rachael was murdered. And it's always been talked about, but never like confirmed or anything like that. And tonight I want to confirm a couple things. And it's been said that possibly somebody was waiting there for her, like at the side door, or like in that back, you know, from her backyard, that side door. Well, Rachel's house has a motion light. So it detects when you're, you know, coming and approaching. This light then will go on. This is not myth, this is fact. So if and when Rachael was dropped off that evening and she would walk up to the side door, that light is going to go off. And it's bright and you can see. And if somebody was standing there, you would see Lauren, Tyree, they would have seen. Because it's light up. Like, go walk outside your house, walk past the motion light and see what happens. What happens? Oh, so if somebody was back there, they would have set off this light. People have asked, why didn't Rachel's parents call 911? Why weren't they the ones, you know, wouldn't they have heard that right there? And I think that would have been so loud. And the answer is, they did hear it. It was loud. It woke them up. If Rachel's dad is by the door, hears this, and Rachel's mom is in the bedroom, and he hears this, pops up, goes to, hey, did you hear that? Oh my God, what? And then they look outside, and they can't see anything. Like they're looking, I mean, they're out, they look out, they don't see anything. Because Rachel's body was behind her Range Rover. And therefore, when they looked out, they couldn't see anything. They couldn't see her. They looked out the window and looking around. They're not seeing it. They're not seeing her. And then it was actually the on-scene officer that came and knocked on their door, said, like, you shouldn't come out here. Like I said, that's for another day. But they heard it, it woke them up. They were looking out, and the way her body was, it was behind that vehicle. So they couldn't see that. They couldn't see anything. It's extremely sad. And what's worse is that this tragedy should have never happened. If you're trying to take down Frank Tropa, who would you want on your team? And the answer is Rachael DelTondo. Rachael was never going to talk to anybody. Until this incident leak. Trying to discredit Rachael, but then also how you would get Rachael to be on your team and help you and be a confidential source. And there's only one or two people that could answer this. And the question is, when did Rachael and John Paul first ever talk? And I guarantee you, if I was a betting woman, I would take my money and I would put it on after the leak. Was John Paul helping Rachael fight this, this incident report that got out there, and there was clearly no wrongdoing? Did Rachael ever tell, John Paul, hey, well, I met, they know what it was actually all about and why me and Sheldon even, met up? And in his own words, John Paul said he's never met Rachael, but yet she's poised poised. She's a nervous wreck, poised. She's strong. She's scared. She's living every day in fear for her life. She had a love for children. She's a teacher. And that he believes the reason she's dead is due to the decisions that she made in her personal life. Well, what decisions are those exactly? And if Aliquippa wasn't the way that it was, Rachael would still be alive. Which way? How is Aliquippa? When someone feels like they have to give you something because I'm not having him write about me, so I'm gonna, give him what he wants, or I'll be damned if he's writing about me, man. Doesn't that kind of sound like blackmail in a way? I don't know if it is, but in the 48 hours special, people were lied to in order for them to participate in it. Claiming that people are going to say something other than what really happened and things of that nature. Well, that's ethical. You're no different than the people that you are trying to take down if you're doing things the same way. Lauren Watkins was driving Rachael that evening. Those gunshots were heard multiple streets over. She had just dropped off Rachael. There's a light, that comes on, that motions on. Rachael, like I said, was scared. Someone's following her, all these things. And then let's talk about everything that happened that night, because I don't believe in coincidences, you write weird text messages. You're play-by-playing it on when you're coming back. You're supposed to be dropping off Tyree and going back to see Rachel and hang out, but Tyree's not supposed to know about it because you don't want to hurt his feelings. There's a discrepancy in your story of where you and Rachel went before Hanks. And why wouldn't, if you're supposed to be hanging out with Rachel, why wouldn't you drop off Ty first and then just act like you're dropping off Rachel and then you're going home? Why would it be the other way around? How would you not hear gunshots only being able to drive a minute from Rachel's house when the gunshots went off? Nope, didn't hear anything. Didn't see anyone, didn't hear anything. Motion light comes on, but yet Rachel's found right at the bottom of the driveway behind her, Range Rover. Does anybody know if they actually in fact went to Hanks? Is there any receipts that Rachel bought ice cream? Tyree, Lauren, was there any cone contents in Rachel's stomach? Did she have, is it just the words? Is there surveillance? Rachel came back early from being in Cleveland. Who called who to hang out that day? Oh, wow. Looks like we have a special guest. Accused. I just caught the part where she accused an Emmy award-winning team of reporters from CBS of lying to get interviews. Nope. That's straight out of the mouth of sources. Guess you could take that up with them. But welcome. I knew it was only time till you wrote in. People will realize how baseless Lana is after the lawsuits are filed. You can't make up fictional tales and use real people as characters. The false light and defamation suits will bankrupt her. Interesting. Well, if I'm baseless, then I don't think you need to even be here. And if I'm a nobody, why are you here? I guess I have to go back and read these articles to find out where any reward was ever posted. A $25,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest of, you know, person that killed Rachael. Yada, 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 yada. You had a special visitor threatening you. Oh, well, guys, I'll tell you what, my channel is anything but boring. Last time I checked, I didn't accuse anybody of anything. I think I asked a lot of questions. Here are the dots. You put them together how you want to put them together. But I think that that's what fair reporting is all about. Just like in the Sheldon Jeter Jr. trial, was it ever mentioned in any article all the question marks that surrounded things that were brought up during that case, during the trial? And if I recall correctly, I believe it was me that broke the news about the juror being DelTondo's neighbor. Yes, it was. And then he had to try to do what? Oh, go get the 11 pages of what that juror was asked. And trying to make a claim that the juror was never asked certain questions. Well, I don't remember a different juror being asked questions about any campaigns that they would have ran. Why did that juror talk about being a campaign manager? Because it's called morals, ethics. Why doesn't John Paul go and interview Junak's tow truck driver, Dan Towing? He needs to go and investigate who towed Jeter's car away that night. Maybe he can find out how the blanket was placed. So, but anyways, I always believe that honesty is the best policy, especially when it surrounds a murder. the facts. We shall see. Slandering innocent people. No. Just asking questions. There's a huge difference. But I'm glad that you're using your name. Thank you. It's a step in the right direction. Ladies and gentlemen, the Emmy Award winning John Paul is here. And so glad we have all the facts out there. I believe in one of your writings during the trial, you wanted to bring in question who the family has sitting next to them. Why would that be remotely written in an article that has to do with the murder trial on who the family has sitting next to them? But that's just really good journalism for you. So that's really important. I think it would be W-O-N. I never won an Emmy. W-O-N. Have a good night, John Paul. So, answering your questions, Truth and Transparency followers, members. What questions can I answer before we wrap up part 2, which again, part 3 will be call it a date night, call it Dateline. We call it date night on Friday. So I don't think a lot of people know what the facts are, because a lot of people haven't even begun to talk about anything to do with Rachael DelTondo's case. I think that's going to change. I hope it changes. And I know I will do my part to make sure that the voices are being heard instead of a narrative being the main focus. Lana, why doesn't anyone have a problem with Officer Watkins crossing police tape, contaminating the crime scene, the scene and victim who was last seen by his daughter? It'd be interesting to see that written up in a report. You know, in that department at that time, a lot of people were, you know, everybody could think that when you think of police officers, they all talk to each other, they're gossiping, everybody knows everything. That wasn't the case, and isn't the case there. And Aliquippa has cliques, and you know, I wouldn't put it past anybody to, you know, I think officers making those statements, you got to check the credibility of it. You got to see where those statements are coming from. You know, it was said to the public that Ken was, you know, not doing what he was doing and put on leave due to, you know, being close with the family and everything like that. Maybe that wasn't the case, you know. Just like how I kind of stand by that, I don't care what defense attorney you are, if you only prep for a case for 5 or 6 months, and you have the life of somebody in your hands, that I don't believe that that's adequate, enough time to prep and prepare. And I think that John Paul should be talking about that if he wants to talk and be fair. So much false reporting, so much false reports. It's scary that the media works to spin, you know, the narrative. John Paul, I thought you were going to bed. I published multiple interviews of Joe about that. I just spoke to Joe today, as a matter of fact. Good. Well then maybe John, maybe me and you should talk. Maybe we should talk. Maybe we can help each other out. You never know. Oh gosh. Yes, you violated a court order to enter the courtroom. The media was in a dispute with the courts about access. It was newsworthy. Who violated a court order? What did I violate? I'm confused, but go ahead with what you mean there. Victimizing them, false narratives. No, you're a crazy person. That's defamation of character. There's no false narratives. Rachel's killer will be arrested, then everyone will know. That's what I want to see. So that's the first thing that we can agree to, that John Paul says that Rachel's killer will be arrested, then everyone will know. Well, good. And I hope that you're helping with that, because that'd be fabulous. I can get behind that. What about June 12th when you exposed all those photos that weren't even into evidence yet? What about that? It's interesting. Strolling up to see the other questions. Slandered a deaf girl. What? I'll make sure I do some reading tonight, thank you. Woo! Like I said, guys, never a dull moment. You want to know how I got them? Got what? Oh, the photos? No, I don't really care. I just know that the jury wasn't sequestered, so I mean, and they're not actually supposed to be looking at anything, but I mean, I don't think you understood what I meant by that, John Paul. And that would be what is ethical in that situation. But I believe you said that you got them exclusively. That you, like, insinuating that nobody else could, which again, that's a, you do you, boy, though. But I will say this, because I give credit where credit's due, and I know that your husband does a fabulous job with his job, and I think that needs to be talked about more. So, and I respect police officers, people that do their job. So, kudos to that man. What's up, Steph? Well, since we're chatting back and forth, what do you think about the blankets, the evidence blanket that was not claimed by anybody as to who put the blanket in, and there's no footage of it going in? Just curious what you think about that. Hey, John Paul, how did you get the email with all the leaked stuff? I think you would do your homework to try to figure out how that, or who sent that, so I'm curious. Maybe we can just chat on the phone about it. I think it's much to do about nothing. Every trial has unanswered questions, usually because both sides have key points they want to highlight. So you don't think an evidence blanket is important? Interesting. Well, at least we're seeing how you feel about things. That's good. What I thought was most interesting from what wasn't presented was this. Jeter's defense team hired their own tool mark analysis to examine the bullets, casing, and gun. Yet the defense didn't call him to testify to refute the PSP's expert. Well, I have yet to see a bill from said toolman expert that the so-called defense did this with. So let's see if let's see if that ever surfaced. Terry, absolutely correct. And that'll be coming in. Everything comes full circle. So John Paul, let me get this straight. Since we're both not straight, we can at least try to get this straight. Sheldon kills Rachel, tosses the gun, gets away with it, you know, but then a couple years later kills Pugh, brings the gun home and puts it under his mattress. It's interesting. Kim, free Jamie Brown. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ain't that the truth? Santacola told me directly the examination had occurred. Awesome. Then you should ask Santacola for the bill of this person. They should produce this. I mean, experts are a lot of money. We just did him a favor. Let me just do this gun and check it out. And a lot of people can tell you a lot of things. Crystal Q, what's up? I never said Sheldon killed Rachel. I reported that his own attorneys acknowledged that he's a suspect. Yeah, no, I didn't say that you ever said that Sheldon killed Rachel. I've never said that once. I'm just saying, I'm talking about that if Sheldon killed Rachel and gets away with it, there's no gun, doesn't come home and bring a gun back home after killing her and puts it under his bed, he then a couple years later kills Pugh, but brings the gun home and leaves his room looking like a hot mess. Not that. I mean, it's interesting. I think if people just do their job, a lot of things would be different. I did not know anything of Rachael DelTondo and Sheldon Jeter before receiving. I believe that. I do. I got that Sherry. Sherry, you got that golden glow. Aww. Thank you, Sherry. And I think the point of all of this is that if people work together and if people are all about the same thing, which are truth, justice, and also to be able to live in Aliquippa and not worry about what color skin they are or who they know and who they don't know and how much money they have and, you know, things of that nature. But I also know that change doesn't happen overnight, so it takes a minute. But I think calling me crazy, that's just silly, sir. I think that also there is no there's no evidence or proof that has come to light of any inappropriate relations with Sheldon and Rachel as far as engaging in any type of sexual relationship, as far as proof of that. Rachael being the age that she was and Sheldon being the age that he was, and together in a vehicle at that hour, and a police officer coming up and two officers deeming that nothing inappropriate happened, and that wasn't what the case was or whatever. That officer, neither of them had to ever make a report. That's not mandatory. Sheldon's own uncle said they were having sex. Is that hearsay? I'm curious of how, I mean, so if Sheldon says they were having sex and Rachael says they weren't, and you're saying, well, and then his uncle even says it, okay, so we have to believe Sheldon, right? Well, Sheldon says that he didn't kill Pugh, so that same logic has to be used then there. Even Sheldon's uncle says that he didn't kill Pugh, so it must be true. So based on that logic, we then we're good. I mean, just wow. I'm one for, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what I say. I don't care what anybody says. It's what are the facts? What can you prove? Where's the evidence? That's what I'm about, JP. So I didn't go out there and say that Rachael DelTondo's neighbor was a juror until I could prove it. And that's what I did. So until you can prove that they were having sex, which, don't you think that there would be, I don't know, like inappropriate text messages, or where are those? What was in Rachael's phone? The point is, Sheldon was not hiding the relationship. So how did Lauren Watkins not know about this relationship? Who's best friends with Rachael. And that's what she claimed on your 48-hour episode. Because he wasn't hiding it, right? Once again, these are all claims. State police have digital evidence. Did you see it? The state police just told you we have digital evidence that confirms. So they have like, is there a video? Is there a sex video of those two having sex? I'm just curious. Is that what, is there text messages saying, hey, can you please meet me at 2 o'clock in the morning so we can bang? I mean, I'm just wondering what type of evidence. Yes, I know that, JP. He did retain Sandoval before Rachel's murder. That is 100% correct. So then I think what's crazy is that how did the Pennsylvania State Police, like, Sheldon has a lawyer. So the night of Pew's, death, and they came there, I mean, why didn't Sheldon lawyer up immediately? Why then even like that next morning, how does Santacola not even know that one of his clients was questioned the night, before? It's a small town. How does that not get around? Well, we shall just see how this all unfolds. So do you feel like Santacola, by telling you about their expert that they had and all this stuff, do you feel like that breached client attorney privilege in any way, shape, or form, talking to you about that? If that's what you're claiming here. So how about we talk about something that would be direct information from her to you? Did Rachel tell you that she was having a sexual relationship with Sheldon Jeter Jr.? Did she deny that to you? Did she tell you? What did Rachel tell you? We'll just do a Q&A back and forth to each other. I've reported about this. Well, enlighten me. I just must have. It's late. I know that you reported that she was getting threats before her murder. I know that you were reporting that. I know that you reported that, but what did you do anything about it? Again, it's just it is interesting though that you did say, did I say that Sheldon killed Rachel? And a comment like that would lead me to believe that you don't think that Sheldon killed Rachel. And you believe that an arrest is going to be made in Rachel's murder. Rachael DelTondo told the Beaver that her was strictly that of a friend, but declined to speak in detail about the alleged incident for this article, citing advice she received from her attorney. So then Rachael never. When they took Sheldon's clothes after Rachel's death, if they were just, hanging out all the time and having sex all the time, was there any DNA found on anything of his? Was Rachel's DNA found on anything of Sheldon's? Was Sheldon's DNA found in Rachel's car? If they're just having sex and cars and stuff, and interesting. Wait, Jenna's related to Lauren? Ken? No. Jen is not related. Ken. That was funny there. Sorry, I had to laugh. Yeah, Crystal, they have to do that. That's part of the autopsy, and there's going to be toxicology reports as well. Like I said, if they went to have ice cream, did Rachael get a cone? Was that contents in her stomach? What was in her system? Did they test, Lauren's hands, Jeter's hands, Tyree's? Did they ask, can we do a, same thing that they did to Sheldon? Can we test your palms? Can we test your hands for residue? Lauren had just dropped off Rachael. Her and Tyree were, literally right there. Were they brought down to the station and questioned at the station? Frozen custard. But like I said, episode 3 won't be disappointing. And again, thank you to our guest for stopping on by. And I'm wrapping this up. And you guys go have yourselves a beautiful rest of your evening. Be kind to each other. Be kind in chat, love. I'll be waiting for my apology, Mr. Paul, Mr. John Paul. Crazy conspiracy theorists. Interesting. You should probably delete episodes 1 and 2. Okay. I'll think about it, Mr. John Paul. While I'm waiting for my apology, I'll be thinking about it. Well, I may be false to you because of your sources, but maybe not to mine. Yes. Sleep well, sir. All of you guys, appreciate you, and we'll see you back on Friday nights. Take care.